seeing this California hotel with the whole side peeled off and sheets tied together as a rope for people to come, I guess it was 4 stories, so they could come down to ground level, and that stuck in my mind.
On the morning of June 29th, 1925, 100 years ago, an earthquake measuring between 6.5 and 6.8 on the Richter scale destroyed a great deal of downtown Santa Barbara and killed about a dozen people. LA Times reporter Ron Lin wrote about the valuable lessons we can still learn from the Santa Barbara earthquake. Ron, thanks for being here.
Sure thing.
When a lot of us think of Santa Barbara and disasters, we recall the big oil spill that took place in 1969. Fewer of us remember the 1925 quake. Tell us the story.
I mean, this is an earthquake that happened 100 years ago, destroyed much of the downtown of Santa Barbara, yet few people really know anything about it. This earthquake happened at 6:42 in the morning, and it destroyed much of downtown Santa Barbara. If you think about State Street, all the way from the pier, going into the heart of the city, places like the Hotel Californian. It was a 4-story hotel, and it had opened just a week before the earthquake, and the exterior brick walls just peeled away from the building. You had the Arlington Hotel, where it suffered a collapse and 2 guests died, and that was because part of the building that held the water tower collapsed.
There was this iconic photograph, Ron, in your story of a friar standing on the steps of the crumbled Mission.
That's right. And it goes to show how earthquakes have been part and parcel of Santa Barbara. In fact, there was an earthquake back in 1812 that not only destroyed the church at the Mission Santa Barbara, but also destroyed another church, another mission along the Central Coast.
Well, you wrote this article looking back at the 100th anniversary and took the time to look at some of the lessons we've learned about the way we build buildings, or used to anyway. Let's start with bricks.
I mean, this was an earthquake that clearly demonstrated how old brick buildings are killers. It took until a few years later, until the 1933 Long Beach earthquake, for officials to realize, hey, we need to start outlawing the way we build brick buildings. Had the 1933 Long Beach earthquake happened, during school hours, there could have been many school children that died. Incredibly, though, it would take decades later, I mean, we're talking about the 1980s and 1990s, before places like Los Angeles and San Francisco started requiring old brick buildings to be seismically retrofitted.
Another building practice that we know more about now are those things called soft story buildings. I mean, we have a lot of them here in Southern California, and many of them failed during Northridge.
That's right. I mean, these are the apartment buildings that are ubiquitous across big cities in California, where there are carports on the ground floor, and they're held up by essentially toothpick-thin sized columns. And when shaken side to side in an earthquake, they collapse. And, there have been cities, Los Angeles in 2015 required these apartments to be retrofitted. But there are, most cities in Los Angeles County don't require them to be retrofitted. And they're a big vulnerability when the next earthquake hits.
Well, this has become a big business, and that is bolting or bracing your house to your foundation, right?
Yeah, and we saw that in the 1925 earthquake in Santa Barbara. There were a number of single-family homes where the homes just slid off the foundation. These are homes that are just a few steps above the ground, and the homes are just, it's like you pull the rug out of the bottom of the house. And one of the key things that can be very, relatively inexpensive, before the quake happens, is to bolt those buildings, those homes down to the foundation.
Yeah, and a lot of these changes weren't made right away, because so many civic leaders in Santa Barbara kind of wanted to keep it on the down low. Like, they didn't want to trumpet this earthquake, right?
Yeah, isn't it incredible? I mean, back in 1925, there wasn't even anything like the magnitude scale you were talking about. And so there were, no one could deny the threat of earthquakes that destroyed much of San Francisco. But in Southern California, there were a number of people who were like, Maybe an earthquake would cause damage locally or in this certain spot, but there were a lot of civic boosters and business interests who were really promoting the idea that earthquakes just weren't that big of a deal.
Before I let you go, Ron, one of the most fascinating things I learned about your piece is that the destruction of Santa Barbara, or much of downtown Santa Barbara in 1925, is the reason we enjoy the way it looks today.
Yeah, I mean, if anyone who goes to Santa Barbara today, they'll instantly notice what's known as the Spanish colonial revival style. We're talking white walls on rough stucco, lots of arches, red tile roofs. If you've ever been to the courthouse there, a beautiful place to get married, that was built there because the old courthouse collapsed, and there was an effort after the earthquake happened to re-envision downtown Santa Barbara in this new style, which makes it what it is today. It goes to show that this earthquake that happened 100 years ago is a big reason why Santa Barbara looks the way it does today.
Ron Lin, writing about the 1925 Santa Barbara quake. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. For more stories in your community, click the subscribe button here. You can also download the Spectrum News app or watch us on TV for the latest information, balanced coverage, weather updates every 10 minutes, and more. We'll see you then.